Okay, so I read an article today that made me want to rip my fucking hair out. It was in Newsweek. It it's so it's almost unbelievable how out of touch and unbelievably stupid this article is. But it's so but this is the mindset of establishment Democrats, and it's so indicative of how establishment Democrats think. That's why I think it's important for me to share with you. So the title is Biden should make James K. Polk's one-term pledge and quote make America normal again end quote. Whether you love President Donald Trump or hate him, one thing is indisputable: his presidency has not been normal. Bullying tweets at all hours, cabinet members tossed under the bus, the FBI director fired after apparently rejecting a request for loyalty, a guilty plea by the former national security advisor, name calling in the UN Security Council, a sitting senator demeaned as a whore, eliminating regulations that made sure kids aren't poisoned with chemicals, small water glasses held with two hands. Oh my fucking god. So that's why my vote in 2020 is clear. James K. Polk. Not the 11th president, of course. He's been dead for 168 years and probably looks and smells terrible. What I want is a leader who will tap into Polk's endearing legacy, his promise to serve only one term. The pledge provides the only way forward for our nation, which is why I'm backing a different dark horse candidate with a different slogan. Biden 2020 to 2024, make America normal again. Maybe you don't like Joe Biden because he's so associated with the last president, who partly begat the backlash that created the current abnormalcy. But Biden is a mainstream, old school poll, I don't even know what the fuck that means, who appeals to a broad middle. A new CNN poll shows him with a nearly 60% approval rating, and a recent Newsweek analysis showed he could clearly win the Democratic nomination. Biden would still have an uphill battle to beat Trump, facing the same electoral map that gave Hillary Clinton the coast but little else. But a Polkian one-term pledge would transform Biden from a party hack hoping to retire a hated Republican president into an inspiring figure who will truly put the nation above party. One-term Joe Biden could make the honest argument that at his age, 77 on election day, he has no larger ambition except restoring our key national institutions and then handing off a stronger nation to a successor of either party. That's what Polk did, by the way. In June 12th, I guess it's supposed to be on June 12th, full of fucking typos and as well as dumbass statements. On June 12th, 1844, led it to his fellow Democrats after winning the party nomination. He specifically cast his one-term pledge as something good for the nation, calling it, quote, the most effective means to, quote, guard all interests of our beloved country. Anyone who has studied Polk or heard the abridged version by the Might Be Giants knows he's completed 4 main agenda items in 4 years and then fulfilled his vow to retire. He left the nation better, well, at least bigger, than he found it. So it's time Biden pull a Polk. But you don't have to believe me. You can believe actual Polk scholars. Okay, I'm done reading this fucking article because this shit is that shit is so unbearable and I don't even, goddamn, my fucking brain was hurting reading that shit again. But something clicked. Something hit me when I was reading it again just now. Because I read it before when I was doing the prep for the show. But something hit me just now when I was reading it. I was like, this is what regular people hate about politics. This must be what the fuck they hate about politics. And what I mean by that is, what I mean by that is, what the fuck was this article even about? Because the article continues with the same vapid nonsense that isn't based in our current political climate, has no correlation to what's going on right now in the United States, doesn't relate to it doesn't relate to the problems that people face in their everyday lives, whether it's low wages, whether it's not being covered by healthcare, or whatever. That what he was writing in the article just completely missed all of that shit. It was just completely vapid, and it was like, let me put it in simple terms. So everybody knows this one person who like knows some random facts, random useless facts that they read on fucking Uber Facts or some other shit, and they take those useless facts that have nothing to do with anybody's lives or anything relevant, and they just repeat that shit and pretend like they're the smartest person in the room. So it's like somebody saying, it's like, alright, say somebody walks into a room and just randomly blurts out, hey, did you know that 30,000 bees can kill a horse? You'd be like, no, but thanks for the information, that's cool to know. That's basically what this idiot did in this article. But instead of just walking into the room and saying, hey, did you know James Polk only ran for one term, and he said that he promised to only run for one term because he thought it'd be best for the country? Instead of just walking into the room and saying that, he made an ass of himself and wrote a whole long ass article saying this is why Joe Biden should be just like James Polk and run for president, promise to run for president one time, and he's going to make the country better, and it's going to be great. So he just came into the room with some completely obscure, irrelevant fact about presidential history, and he thinks just because he knows that one thing, he has it all figured out. He got it figured out. He got all the fucking answers now. He knows James Polk only back in the beginning of the country. You know, James Polk promised to run for one term and make the country better doing so. So obviously, 168 years later, 170 years later, that's obviously what the fuck we need to do now. Like, really? Really? And then people see that and they think, oh, this is what the politicals talk about all the time. This is what politicians talk about all the time. This is how you show you're an expert in politics. You just name random facts that nobody in the fucking country gives a shit about or should even fucking know or care to know. And then you go back and forth and it's a pissing match. I say a random fact that you that makes no fucking sense and isn't relevant to anybody's life, and then you say a random fact that's irrelevant and makes no sense to anybody else's life. And then we go back and forth, and that's how a political debate goes. And then people have this idea when they see shit like this and see articles like this, that this is the way that politics works, and this is why I want nothing to do with politics. But this isn't how politics work. He's a fucking idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Because if I were to press him on policy specifics, because what was absent in that article was fucking policy specifics. If I was to press him, if I was to say, what's your position on, what do you think Joe Biden's position is on regulating the banks, and do you think it's correct? What do you think Joe Biden's record says about his fight to raise the minimum wage, and do you think he's correct? If I was to press him on specific policies of Joe Biden, specific policy positions Joe Biden prefers, he would be sitting there like a fucking idiot with a dick in his hand, and he would just be fucking clueless, just staring into space. He wouldn't have a fucking answer, or he would just go around in fucking circles and circles and repeat other irrelevant facts about presidential history and electoral history that's just irrelevant because it's not based on our current political climate. So that's the mindset. That's how he thinks, and he thinks he's got one up on everybody. He thinks that he has all the fucking answers. But anyway, not to go too much off on a rant on that, but let's break down some of the idiocy in the article. If we go to the beginning, when he was listing all the shit that before I get to that, what was the main argument that he laid out in the beginning? Why we need a quote James Polkian figure to run for president, specifically talking about James Biden in 2020. What was the reason why he said that? Because Donald Trump isn't normal. His presidency isn't normal. What the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? What? Yes, that is true. That is anybody looking at it can objectively just say, yeah, this isn't normal. But why are you making that that argument that it isn't normal such a focus of why we need change in 2020? I don't think that's the main reason why we need change in 2020. Because Donald Trump isn't normal, his presidency isn't normal. He could be abnormal and doing a bunch of good shit. It would be abnormal if a president went on CNN and ripped their fucking network and the propaganda that they do, how their journalists are wildly inaccurate on stories, how they don't cover stories that are relevant to the American people, how they don't talk about policies that have real world effects on people's lives, like wars and taxes and the corrupt political climate, the corrupt political system that's based off of legalized bribery through the campaign donations and shit like that. If a president was to go on CNN and to lay it out like that and to rip the fucking network and the journalists and the everybody at the network, that would be fucking abnormal. He would be right to do it, but it would be abnormal. And then if, on the other hand, he was doing the policy positions that he was actually progressing, like raising the minimum wage. Let's say he was working on raising the minimum wage, or ending the wars, or lowering taxes for the middle class and the working class, or getting free college. If he was going on CNN and doing that quote abnormal rant and laying out the facts of how shitty the network is, that'd be abnormal. But on the other hand, he'd still be doing great policies that the American people actually want. So for him to the whole premise of his article to make it that, yeah, this presidency is abnormal, is fucking stupid. Because like I said, if you were to inject the scenario that I just made up into the situation, he would still say the president is abnormal. Would you still be trying to get that president kicked out of office? Would you still be trying to find somebody to run against him because he's abnormal, even though he's doing everything that the American people want? So that's just a dumbass, lazy, sloppy argument to hit Trump on. Even though, yes, it is true, the shit that he does is abnormal, and it is fucking strange and weird, and people should be paying attention to it, but just to make that your main focus of why we need to have somebody run against him in 2020 is fucking ridiculous. But anyway, let me get into the specific reasons that he calls this presidency abnormal. Bullying tweets at all hours. Cabinet members tossed under the... Okay, let me just stop right there. Bullying tweets at all hours. Really? Because the president's tweeting crazy shit in the morning. That's why we need to get somebody That's why Joe Biden needs to be the president of the United States, because our current president tweets crazy shit in the morning. Like, that's, again, the sloppy, lazy arguments. You're not thinking this through. You don't see how dumb this argument, like, you don't see how it doesn't resonate with the regular people. If you're somebody who's working 50 hours a week, do you give a shit if Donald Trump is up tweeting bullying tweets in the morning? No. If you're working 50, 60 hours a week and you still don't have enough money to pay the bills, you want somebody to do something about that. You want somebody to raise your pay, or somebody to make it so that you don't have to work so much to pay the bills. That's what you're concerned about. But this asshole is his fucking tweets. Donald Trump's writing some bullying tweets. Okay. Cabinet members tossed under the bus. What I'm sure he was one of the many people who were rightfully ripping Donald Trump's cabinet when he was picking it at the time. When Donald Trump's cabinet when he was picking Betsy DeVos, a millionaire, a fucking billionaire oligarch who's bribed the whole Republican Party, who has no background in education, has hell-bent. She spent her entire career actually trying to destroy public education. And as in her role, ever since she's been confirmed, she's been actively trying to destroy the public education system from the head of the public education system, from the top, because she's the Secretary of Education. She's a cabinet secretary. So then, why are you going to make this shitty argument of we need Joe Biden to replace Donald Trump in 2020 because Donald Trump's throwing cabinet secretaries in the bus? I don't give a fuck if he throws his cabinet secretaries under the bus. They're crazy. They're all just as bad as he is. All of them. They're all just as corrupt. They're all just as cretinous. They're all just as despicable. They all support the same shitty policies that he does. That's why he picked them. So I don't give a fuck if he's throwing Rick Perry under the bus, or Scott Pruitt, the chairman, the head of the EPA, or any of his other, Rex Tillerson, who is just a fucking Exxon CEO. Are you gonna sit here and defend Donald Trump's cabinet picks? Is that what you're doing? That's what it sounds like. Again, I could just make the whole fucking video off of the dumbass reasons that he lists to replace Trump with Joe Biden. But how about I just get into why you shouldn't replace Trump with Joe Biden? Joe Biden, like I laid out in a previous segment I did when I was ripping Barack Obama and how weak and ineffectual he was as a president, and then I expanded it to the Democrats. Joe Biden falls under the same category. Almost all the criticisms you could say for Barack Obama, you can give to Joe Biden, and the same thing for Joe Biden. The criticisms you have of Joe Biden, you could also. It's fair that most of them you could give them to Barack Obama too. So one of the criticisms I had was he was the Barack Obama, the party's weak and ineffectual. They've been in control for decades, going back to Clinton, and they've just been in power. The same neoliberals who are fairly conservative, they've been in power and control of the Democratic Party for decades, literally decades, from the 90s, you could say even up to the 80s. These neoliberals have had control of the party. So your solution to fix the current political climate that has led us to having a fucking buffoon like Donald Trump president is to elect somebody who is a part of that same establishment, who's a part of that same club, who agrees with these people and all the shitty ideas and the shitty policies that they have that have led us to this position. That's your fucking takeaway. Out of all of this, out of everything that's happened, at the primaries in 2015 and 2016, the election of 2016, Donald Trump being elected, Hillary Clinton losing, the country electing Donald Trump after having Barack Obama for 8 years. After all of that shit, your takeaway isn't, hey man, maybe these neoliberals are kind of fucking this shit up for everybody. They've been in power. They aren't really doing anything for us. They aren't raising the minimum wage. They aren't getting free college. They aren't ending the wars. In fact, sometimes they even start more wars than the Republicans, like Barack Obama did. They all support the illegal mass surveillance by the NSA, like I covered in that other segment. So why the fuck are we gonna keep putting these people in power to keep doing shit that Republicans want them to do? That didn't cross his fucking mind not one time. That didn't cross his mind once. Instead, he's seeing, Joe Biden, who everybody loves, and to be fair, yeah, a lot of people in the country who don't follow politics closely see Joe Biden as a positive political figure. They see him because, and this is the trick of the Democratic Party. Once you know this, then you get to see through all this shit. The Democrats, they paint themselves. they describe themselves, the way they portray themselves and put themselves out there to the public is, we are sane, reasonable, and rational people, and we are better than the Republicans. Look at the fucking Republicans. These people are crazy. Look at Donald Trump. Look at George Bush. Look at the shit that they want to do. We're just better than the Republicans. That's the whole Democrats. That's their dog and pony show. That's their whole trick. Their one trick pony. So that's the persona that they try to create. And then you have Democrats like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama and Joe Biden, who are really likable people. I'll give them that. They're likable people. They're really personable. It looks like when they talk to people, they can somewhat relate to them. They sound like a regular person. They don't really sound like some politician speaking to you and lying to you. And they're funny and they're likable. They're just likable people. Okay, that's good. That's cool. But where are you on the policies? Where are you on the shit that matters? Where are you on the laws that you want to pass? Where are you on the direction the country needs to go in? If you ask any of the neoliberals if you ask them on specific policy positions, you would see how closely they align with Republicans on shit. For example, taxes. Democrats, Republicans, like they're 100% sold out to the donor class, the millionaires and the billionaires. That's the whole purpose of the party existing, just to be a mouthpiece for corporate America and the mega rich. That's the point of the Republican Party. So what do they want? Of course, what rich people want: giant tax cuts for rich people. So every time Republicans are in power, that's their first priority: a giant tax cut for the rich. They do it in different ways. They'll cut spending programs like food stamps, like housing assistance, like Medicare, Medicaid. They'll cut those. Sometimes they'll cut those things in order to give the extra money back to the rich and the mega rich. Or sometimes they'll just do just like a blanket tax cut, or any of the number of ways they could find to cut taxes for the rich. So that's Republicans' position as soon as they get in power. Let's cut taxes for the rich, and then. You could see it in the Bush administration. Back 2000, when Bush was elected and he was president from 2001 to 2009, he did something similar to what Donald Trump did. He passed a historic tax cut for the rich. It was the biggest tax cut in U.S. history for the rich. And again, at the time, they were the richest people in the country, so they didn't need it. So Bush did that. Everybody's head was on fire. Hair was on fire. We were screaming about that. It was progressives were rightfully mad about it. But when Bush passed the tax cut, Congress was so close and it was so tight that they couldn't, and the tax cuts were so outrageous that there was just no way that they could do the tax cuts and then just leave them like that permanently, because it was just inexcusable. So what they did, what Republicans did at the time, was they added a provision in the bill, a sunset clause, and it said at this time, after a certain amount of years, these tax cuts will expire and the taxes will go back to the way they were before the tax hit. So that's what happened under Bush. And then when Barack Obama was president, he and like I said before, he had the supermajority. He had the House, he had the Senate, and he had the White House. So he could have done whatever he wanted. If he wanted, he could have came in and said, "Whoa, this tax cut is fucking crazy. I'm going to reverse this shit right now. We're reversing this shit right now. And instead, we're going to give a giant tax cut to the working class and the middle class, to people who bust their ass and deserve some extra money in their pockets. That's what we're going to do. Barack Obama could have done that on day one with the Democrats having the House and the Senate and the White House. He could have done that, right? But instead, what did Barack Obama do? Barack Obama passed he codified those Bush's tax cuts. He made them permanent. So they were supposed to expire under Barack Obama's administration when he was in office. And Barack Obama said that, and he saw that. He's like, oh, shit. This tax cut helps a lot of my donors. It helps a lot of rich people who I owe favors to. And so I'm just going to make this permanent, and keep giving them these giant tax cuts, even though they don't deserve it, and it hurts the economy, and it hurts the working class and the middle class. And they don't need the money. I'm just going to do it because I owe them favors and because I'm kind of conservative, and I kind of believe George Bush when he was cutting taxes for the rich. I kind of agree with that shit. So I'm gonna just make it permanent. So Barack Obama did what George Bush couldn't do and made George Bush's ridiculous, absurd, giant tax cut for the rich permanent. So this is what Democrats do. They agree with Republicans on a lot of shit, and more than they care to admit in public. And even though we all know Republicans' policies are fucking disastrous and they hurt the country. So, and to say that you'd want Joe Biden, he should be the next president. Why? He was with Barack Obama for 8 years when he was doing all this shitty policies that he was doing, all the conservative policies that he was doing. Why would I want him? Why would I expect him to come in and do anything different? Why at a time when the country is desperate, begging for a progressive to come in and take the reins, to come in with both barrels blazing and get all the progressive priorities that we've been promised for decades? That's what the country's begging for right now. At that time, why the fuck would I have somebody who's been a part of the establishment, who's been part of the status quo since he's been in politics? Actually, that's not fair. Joe Biden, he was less of a sellout when he got into politics, but eventually that corporate money got to him and he became even more of a sellout. But he's been a sellout for decades. Why would I trust him? He's been a part of the establishment for decades. Why would I trust him at such an important time to come in and affect change when he doesn't even support the change that we need? So why the fuck would I do that? And you could see it through the policies that he stood by and that Barack Obama did without really having any pushback. The foreign policy, Barack Obama, when he came into president, George Bush was at war with 2 different countries in the Middle East. It was bad. Those Iraq was an illegal war. Afghanistan was iffy. But Bush, the way he handled both of them was a fucking debacle and an international scandal with the torture and all that shit. Barack Obama looks at that. We killed at minimum 200,000 civilians in Iraq. Talking women, children, elderly people who shouldn't be casualties of war. The U.S. killed at minimum 200,000 civilians. There's some counts that the number is over 1 million. And we're talking about airstrikes and typical raids in villages and drone strikes and shit like that. We killed 200,000 to 1 million people in one country in an illegal war. Barack Obama says, he looks at that shit and he says, He not only continued those 2 wars, right? He got us involved in 5 different other countries. Actually, 6 different other countries while he was president. Libya, Syria, Yemen, Somalia. Yeah. And there's another country. Who the fuck am I forgetting? That's crazy. But yeah, he went from those 2 illegal wars that we were doing and expanded it to 7 wars. We're bombing in all those different countries now. We did a coup in Libya when he was president. And all of this shit, it's not like it happens and then it's just done. No. There's consequences. He did that shit, and then what happens? He created more terrorists. Bush created more terrorists when he did that shit. You can. I'll have the numbers in a different segment for you guys because it's important to show. They did, when you look at the amount of terrorists in the world and terrorist attacks that were going on in the world before we invaded Iraq in 2003, the number is empirically, objectively less than it is now. So Bush did the war on terror, fucked us over. Barack Obama gets in, expands the war on terror, and both of them create even more terrorists. Joe Biden was right next to Barack Obama the whole time. What did he do? He ain't say shit. He didn't do shit. So all of these different policies, shitty policies that Democrats push for, and Republicans push for, and then Democrats continue. Like all of this shit. Why would I want Joe Biden to be the next president? Why? And then some people, last point, some people will say, man, he's the vice president. He doesn't technically have all the power. He can't really control anything. He doesn't make the say. He doesn't have a say. He doesn't really make the rules. He goes by what the president says. Partially that's true. Okay. But you're the vice president of the United States. You were elected just like he was elected, right? He can't fire you. Nobody can fire you. Nobody can kick you out of being vice president. So if the president of the United States is actively engaged in several illegal wars, killing civilians, violating international laws, committing war crimes, killing civilians, all those things, wasting trillions of dollars in tax money, and that's another thing. But all those wars cost trillions of dollars, wasting trillions of dollars in tax money doing all that shit. And he sat by and said nothing for 8 years. Not one time did Joe Biden come out and say, to anybody really, but make a public statement and say, man, I've been really trying to talk to Barack Obama about this war shit, man. He got it all wrong. We're making the problem even worse. We're killing people. We're doing all this shit. It's terrible. He never once did that shit. He never once came out and voiced any concerns with it. So, and in fact, he pushed it with Barack Obama. He went country to country with Barack Obama and trying to sell the war on terror to different countries and try to expand it in different countries. So he was just as much a part of it as Barack Obama was, is my main point. So no, we don't need Joe Biden. We don't fucking need any establishment Democrats like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Cory Booker or Hillary fucking Clinton. We are done with the establishment. We are done with it. We need a strong, unapologetic progressive like Bernie Sanders to take the fucking reins of the Democratic Party and show them how this shit is done. Show them how it's done. Get the policies that people want done. Get free college. Get a universal health care. Get single payer. Get free daycare. Raise the minimum wage. End these fucking wars. We need somebody who is going to buck the establishment. Somebody who's going to come in and say, what the fuck are you guys doing? You guys have it dead wrong. All of you need to get the fuck out of here. You have no business in politics. That's what we need. We don't need somebody to continue the status quo like Joe Biden would. So, back to the fucking main point of this article. No, we don't need some fucking James Polk figure in James Biden to run the Democratic Party, to be the nominee and to fix the country or any of the other shit, because he's part of the problem. And you're a fucking idiot and you're a hack and you should probably stop writing articles, because I'll keep coming out here ripping them shits to shred.